Well, no.
Okay. Oh, good. Hello, everyone. We're going to give everybody just 1 minute, and then we're going to get started. Exciting.
I feel like there should be some music or a soundtrack.
I know, like
Oh, we're going to play Jeopardy later. We're going to play Yes, 6 Steps to Crisp Marketing. Crisp Marketing for a Clear Impact.
This positioning strategy was once known as
For $600, Rachel.
Hello, everyone. Give it a few more minutes because I know we had well over 100 registrants. They're all trickling in.
You know, it is the day after a holiday for
That's true.
so it really does.
I'm like, is it Monday? Is it Wednesday? I don't know.
Second to get acclimated.
All right, well, I'll kick us off so we can stay on time. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Business Growth Roundtable. My name is Rachel Durkin, and I'm going to let Katie get started today, and then you'll hand it over.
Sounds great. Excuse me, everyone. Allergies are really killing me today, but good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at the NJBIA Business Growth Roundtable. We are thrilled to have helped in the creation of this amazing group led by such wonderful individuals. For those of you, who are new to NJBIA, we are the largest statewide business association in the country, representing over 1 million jobs in the state of New Jersey, which is approximately 1/4 of all New Jersey employees. We offer customer development opportunities, visibility through events, magazine ads, our podcast and TV show. We also have money-saving discounts on stuff you're probably already paying for, like payroll, healthcare, 401k solution, and 24/7 HR support. I am Katie Whitcamp with the business development team. If you're interested in more info on us, I'll drop my info into the chat, and please get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you. Right now, I'm going to pass it back to the wonderful Rachel Durkin.
Thank you. My name is Rachel Durkin. I'm with Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are presenting today, so I'm going to hold off on the intros because we'll do that during the presentation. But the first thing I want to do is thank our sponsors, because this event would not be what it is each month without that. First, we have Kim Lucy, who is the Director of Wealth Planning at Synthesis Wealth Management. She is passionate about living a life that has purpose, and this passion is instrumental in how she helps her clients navigate their journey. Planning for retirement is one of Kim's specialties. She teaches retirement planning courses, and a new one is starting on October 17th, just a few days away. They are a 2-night course that's offered over a few weeks, and you'll learn how to create a plan to increase your financial stability throughout retirement strategies, on how to maximize taxes, how to adjust your plan to changing life events, and more. Please feel free to reach out to Kim. I will put her email in the chat, and she will send you her full overview of what is being covered in the course. I also want to can't talk today. I also want to thank Laura Crothers from Crothers Consulting. Laura Crothers helps leaders with their people and leadership. And Laura started Crothers Consulting to help with people and their leadership and culture strategies over 12 years ago. She now has a team of 25 people and provides individual career and organizational development through training programs or expertly facilitated discussions. The coaching provides both leadership and life coaching strategies for your team members and makes them more efficient and better employees to one another. Their HR experts assess, design, and implement HR programs linking business plans and culture to realistic people practices. And their HR projects range from sticky employee relations situations to all the way through designing complex compensation packages and programs. They are the go-to expert for the middle market organization throughout the U.S. in all industries. And then lastly, I want to thank Cal Thomas from Sandler Training. Cal Thomas is the president of Sandler Training in Morristown, a sales management and customer service training and coaching program. I will say that almost everyone, I don't know about you, Katie, but everyone on my team, and I know C3 Workplace has used Sandler either training for sales training or for management training in the past. I will tell you, as a Sandler alumni, my closing rate went from 40% to 70% after the 8-week course because it gave me a process to leverage in order to improve my sales strategy. I put my entire team through it. It's a culture in our organization. I can't say enough about how great I think Sandler training is. So if you are looking to improve your sales strategy, make sure you check out Cal. We will put his information in the chat as well. Okay. So that is our sponsors. Thank you all so much. Actually, Cal, I see you saying thank you to me. Can you put your info in the chat? Because I have a lot of talking to do. That would be great. Okay. And then I also want to make sure you guys all know that we have the roundtable every month. It's become this is almost our second year finishing it up. It is become an amazing program with over 100 participants each month, sometimes up to 300 and 400 participants. We've had amazing speakers. We've shared amazing knowledge. It is the second Tuesday of every month. So make sure that you're always checking back on what the upcoming topics are. And if you ever want to learn about a topic and have us schedule it into the agenda, make sure you email me or Donna and we will make sure that that happens. November's roundtable is about making data-driven decisions, a blueprint for business prosperity. Many business leaders are beginning to grasp the impact of inaccurate data on their bottom line. According to research by Experian, Gartner, and IBM, bad data costs the U.S. economy $3.1 trillion annually, directly impacts the bottom line of 88% of American companies, and costs companies around 12% of their total revenue. Additionally, 60% of companies do not know how much bad data costs their business because they don't measure data. If you're facing challenges in your business, such as inaccurate data, fragmented systems, and difficulty making decisions due to poor data, you're not alone. Many organizations grapple with these issues, which can hinder growth and profitability. The good news is there's processes and system integrations in place that can help ensure you're tracking clean data and, more importantly, the right data for your business. Register for our November roundtable, where our panel of experts will discuss critical challenges businesses face around data and the solutions to empower your business. We're going to cover the consequences of inaccurate data, integrated systems, budgeting and futurecasting, real-time data and KPIs, measuring performance and ROI, and effective self-management for profitability. So make sure you register. I think Kelly's going to drop that in the chat for me. And you can register now. It's already, the registration page is already up, and we will see you there. That's also going to be hosted by FKC accounting firm, the Entrepreneurs Accounting Firm. So with that, we are going to get started on our presentation today. Before I jump into it, please do use the Q&A instead of the chat for questions at the end, because there's going to be so much going on in the chat. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to find the questions. So I will jump into it right now. Let's see, am I sharing my screen? Can y'all see this?
Now we can.
You see the crisp messaging for clear impact?
Yeah, you're stealing my thunder, Rachel.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to have so many screens. I don't know what you're doing right. I don't know what you're looking at. All right, but you're looking at the presentation and not my notes, right?
Yes, we are. You know, that's always a gamble. You could roll the dice anytime you want.
I don't know. I'm hiding a lot over here. I don't want you guys to know how unorganized.
Well, you've had a lot of information to share. You might be a little frazzled. It's a Tuesday, which feels like a Monday after a holiday.
Doesn't get worse than that, yeah.
We will forgive you. Well, I'm going to grab the baton from you and kick off this party. I'm thrilled because messaging is a huge passion of mine. So I am thrilled to welcome you to Crisp Messaging for Clear Impact, 6 steps to develop a compelling brand message. I am Vicki Hart. I am the Director of Client Engagement at Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a web marketing and workflow agency, and actually it's over a dozen years now. We have helped hundreds of businesses make millions of dollars in revenue, which is amazing. If that's interesting to you, definitely reach out. So, we always like to highlight, when you talk about marketing and design, sometimes people forget that we are a full 360 agency. So it is my job to clarify that for you. We work in 4 pillars of excellence. In web marketing services, we act as your full outsource marketing company, your full outsource marketing department. We build websites that are marketing tools. We do design in branding and logo and identity development, as well as workflow. So this all ties into us being a one-stop shop as a full sales enablement organization. Rachel, I know you got the opportunity to spotlight. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you before we get the party started, or are you just going to jump right into the pool?
I'll talk about myself for a second. I know that's really hard for me. So my name is Rachel Duncan. I'm the president of Paradigm Marketing and Design. As Vicki said, we are a full service marketing agency. We also specialize in helping clients with the complex sale. So our niche industries are either B2B marketplace, professional services, or nonprofits. And what I mean by a complex sale is if you're selling a widget, we're probably not for you. But if you require a sales team to have a conversation to close a deal, we can increase the number of meetings your sales team is having through automation and strategy and tactics, and increase their closing rate. So with that, I'm going to jump in. So today we are talking about the 6 steps to successful messaging. But before I get too far into what the actual steps are, I want to talk about the benefits to messaging. So years ago, I had a client that is was a financial services firm, and their goal when they came to us was to grow to $1 billion in assets under management. When they came to us, they were doing about 800 million in assets under management. And they came to us because they were doing a great job on marketing. They had a ton of good PR mojo. Their experts were on there and CNBC and Forbes, and they were seen as experts in the industry. However, they were getting a ton of phone calls every day, which was great, but 80% of those phone calls were not the right target audience. Only 20% were. So they were doing what we call kissing a lot of frogs. And that's a lot of resources for your sales team to do. So they came to us and they said, we want to figure out how to switch that so that the phone calls are more qualified leads. And so we did an audit that started with an understanding their target audience and then moved into their messaging. And what we found when we actually talked to their target audience was they wanted an audience that was an educated audience, but uneducated so much in financial services. They didn't want people who were doing day trading by themselves. They wanted people that wanted to invest their money and wanted an advisor to help them figure out what was best for them and their family. And instead, because they were talking on these outlets where mostly day traders watched and talking in a way and using acronyms that mostly day traders understood, they were speaking over the head of their target audience and they were speaking in the wrong spot. And so we found that they were saying the wrong thing to the wrong people in the wrong way. And they were doing it quite a bit and spending a lot of money on it. So we changed their strategy. We changed their message so that the normal people like myself could understand what they were saying. We changed where they were talking. So normal people like myself or like their target audience were watching them. And suddenly the phone call switched. 80% of the phone calls were the right target audience and 20% of the phone calls were not the right target audience. They did achieve, after many years of growth after that, their assets under management goal, and they ended up selling their company, which was the ultimate goal, which is why they were a former client, but we were happy to get them to where they needed to go. What they ultimately found was they were spending so much money in the wrong place with the wrong message, and it was costing them, and it was inhibiting their growth. So, excuse me. So Vicki, I'll let you jump onto this.
Well, because I'm the chief frog kisser in the company.
Yes. And you're so good at it.
Thank you. I don't like kissing as many frogs as, unnecessarily kissing a lot of frogs. So one of the things that we always, messaging really does determine the conversions that you make. So if 80% of the frogs you're kissing turn into princes, you are nailing it. But if only 20% of those are converting, then perhaps there might be something wrong with your messaging. So, it depends on how many frogs you like to kiss. I like to only kiss 20% of my frogs if I had my choice. So definitely looking at your message is absolutely critical. And to the point Rachel was making earlier about how the message was flying over the target audience, 70% of messaging fails because it's not resonating with its intended audience. So it's just flying right past them. I often get emails that get sent to me as if I'm the business owner. So I just delete them. They don't mean anything to me. They should be going to Rachel. But if they were talking to me as a director of of client engagement and more in the me as an influencer within what happens with the organization, maybe it would definitely have a bigger impact on me. So always think about that. Is it going to the right audience? And we're going to talk about our audience matrix, which is one of my, which you can't do your right messaging without understanding who your target audience is. And so, that misalignment not only can cause loss of sales, but again, it's that whole kissing a lot of frogs strategy. We spent so much, I spent time in the beginning of my career talking to a lot of the wrong people. Either they were too small, they didn't have the money, they weren't ready for us, or they just, they were just kicking a lot of tires. So if you really want to be strategic, nailing your messaging strategy is absolutely critical here.
So I want to jump into the 5 ways that messaging impacts your business, and because in order to get into the 6 ways to improve it, we want to understand what we're missing out on and what we could be achieving and what changes we need to be making. So the first one is it can boost your conversion rate. So these 2 ads, so generally when we go to market, an ad like this, like on PPC or display ads or social media, this is a social media ad, we could be spending $20,000 a month. In fact, the client was spending $20,000 a month. We don't want to go to market with $20,000 and be not sure if it's resonating with our audience. So generally what we do is we do a test ad for like $200 for the week, and we run these ads side by side and we see how they're resonating. So this particular ad was to CTOs and COOs at Fortune 500 companies. So, and it was about cybersecurity. So I'm going to ask you, Vicki, like which one of these ads do you feel like got more clicks?
Well, I totally identify with the woman in the purple. I don't know if it's flipped when you're viewing it, but the woman in the purple identified me. I used to be a business owner, and that's how I felt, completely frustrated. The one on the left horrifies me, but I would have probably picked the one on the right.
Okay, so
or the purple one.
And that's great. Actually, it's interesting. A lot of the women that I asked like the purple one better, but most of the CTOs in our target audience are men, and so in fact. The ad on the left, the scary, freaky one, had 87 clicks in a 1-week period with a very small advertising budget. And with the same budget, the ad on the right, the woman with the purple writing, had 32 clicks in a 1-week period. So interestingly that you and I like the purple one better, but the target audience actually liked the other one better. So that's the first lesson, is make sure that you are not your target audience. Don't ever assume you know what they want. But understand that messaging can have a huge impact on your conversion rate. The second is it can optimize marketing spend and improve ROI. So if you're conveying the right message to the right audience, you can influence how they're thinking about something before they even try it. So they actually did a study, 7up did a study, and they found that when they added 70% more green than yellow onto the can, people who did taste testing reported that it had more of a lime than lemon flavor, even though the taste itself remained unchanged. So just by looking at a can and seeing more green, they thought it tasted more limeish. So having how you position something, how you visualize something can influence your perception of something. And that's why the statistic is so important, that a 20% improvement in messaging can have a bigger impact on your return than a 20% improvement of your product. It's all perception. Number 3, I will let you jump onto this one, Vicki.
Well, I'm a huge believer, and if you've heard me talk before, I've often said a brand is a promise that you make. And, people often say, okay, that makes sense. But then what exactly does that mean? It's every touch point that you are engaging with your brand. It's about consistency, right? So it's really important to a well-crafted message will succinctly communicate your value proposition. It will be crisp and to the point, and making it easier for people to really just kind of understand and have a connection to your brand in a way when you are right, when you're direct, you're to the point, it's simplified. So make it easier for people to understand, keeping it simple, how you solve your problem. The world is complex enough. It's people, when they have problems, they are looking for someone who understands how to solve their problem. So be clear, crisp, succinct, and really articulate in a direct way how they can solve your problem. And what this does is it really actually empowers the people that you're talking to be able to retell your story in a concise way, so that when they are going back to their decision maker, like hopefully you have all the right people in the room when you're having a conversation, but if someone can retell your story in a crisp and clear way, you're winning, you're nailing it. And that is, part of, building that brand awareness and creating that trust.
And we also know on average, it takes 9 to 13 touches to build trust in your audience. And a touch can be an email communication, a conversation with the salesperson, a hit to your website. Here's the thing though, that message in every touch has to be consistent, because if touch 1, 2, and 3 have a consistent message and then 4 and 5 is inconsistent or doesn't resonate, you lose your audience in that touch process. So making sure that you're having a consistent message is going to be what's critical to building that awareness. Number 4 reason you need crisp messaging is it guides the customer journey. So I talk, if you've ever seen any of my presentations, I talk a lot about the customer journey, because I mentioned that 9 to 13 touches. What people think they need in the beginning of the buying process is not what they think they need when they're almost at the end of the buying process. Think about it. So for example, I'm trying to plan my spring break trip with my kids. And we're not sure what we want to do. So the first thing I'm doing is, we're thinking about the Caribbean, is researching every single Caribbean island out there. And then I'm researching every different type of hotel. And then I'm researching every different type of kids activity. I'm starting very broad. I don't know what I need. And then as I get wiser, I change my perceptions or my needs along the way. You've got to make sure that your messaging also supports that customer journey. I'm going to give you another example. So I really believe that for B2B marketing, social media in and of itself is not going to produce a return on investment. It's just not. It's probably one of the strongest tools you'll have in your marketing arsenal. It is a great way to facilitate that touch process I just talked about, but it alone is not going to produce revenue by itself. Now, if you go to our website, at the top of it, under marketing, you're going to see social media marketing. That is because most of the clients that come to us and want marketing help come to us and say, I need social media marketing. They use those words. What they need is social media marketing as a bigger strategy for lead generation and lead nurturing. But they use the term social media marketing because what they think they need at the top of the funnel. So that's what I have on my website, being that it's a first or second point of touch often at the top of the funnel. Now, as they download resources and read information, they're going to become more educated and speak to us and realize they need other things. But I'm not going to fight an uphill battle. If the perception at the top of the funnel is you need social media marketing and it's going to solve all your problems, then I'm going to talk about social media marketing and then educate them along the way. So making sure that you're considering your message through the customer journey is really important. Where am I? What's going on? Okay, you're up, Vicki.
Well, to that point, one of the greatest compliments I get is I see you everywhere. Mm-hmm. Whether I see you in a webinar, whether I see you at an event speaking, whether I see, I see your ads, I get your email. It's that 9 to 13 touch process that is consistent. So yes, how social media is part of that mix. It's part of a bigger infrastructure that, we're looking to foster those connections with, right? So Rachel mentioned earlier that if any part of that gets broken along the way, you have to start all over again. So it's critical to foster deeper connections with your prospects. And the data proves that over 50% of people, 57% of people to be more precise, when they feel connected with a brand, they spend more. I mean, cha-ching, if they feel connected to you, there is an opportunity for upsell and cross-sell opportunities. And 64% of people want to feel connected to their brand. Listen, I'm still to this day very connected to Tide because I love the brand. Whether it's changed or not, whether it performs as good as it used to, I don't know, and I don't care, but they've got me. And that's a point. I've always felt a connection to the brand. And with 76% of customers saying they buy a brand that they feel connected with over their competitor, that's really interesting. That's about making making sure that you are getting out there and separating yourself, or really staking a claim loud and proud about who you are and the value that you bring to the table.
So we're going to jump into the 6 steps to a successful messaging strategy. Try to say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tongue twister.
That was harder than I thought it would be. But I just want you guys to know, I'm about to jump into this, and there's a lot of content here. So what I do is I talk about each of the piece steps at a very high level and preview it. And then there will be a link somewhere in these slides to a resource where you could dig deeper, because there's just so much to cover here. I wanted to give you kind of a preview. So bear with me. I'll make sure that this also gets sent out afterwards, and you can access those resources if you want to, follow the funnel. So, okay, step 1, know your audience. This is the most important step. This is the example of that case study that I talked about earlier. They were saying, things that made them look smart. They were building trust. So they were doing some of the things that you're supposed to do in messaging. They were building trust. They were creating connections, but they were not talking to the right audience. And so it fell on deaf ears. When you're trying to figure out your audience, you want to think about the pain funnel. So it's not so much about audience DNA. I'm sure you've heard that in the past. Are they male or female? How old are they? What is their income? It's about psychographics, in my opinion. What are their hopes and dreams, their fears? What is their pain or wants at an emotional level? So if you see this funnel, and Sandler talks about this a lot, shout out to you, Cal. But you want to start with, everybody starts with surface level pain. They start talking about, what's bothering them at a surface level. I need social media marketing. Okay, that's your surface level pain. The financial pain is, if you're having a conversation or you're going down the funnel, I need social media marketing, because if I can't bring in more sales, I'm probably gonna have to lay off some employees, or I'm not going to be able to afford to make payroll. That's the financial pain. The emotional pain is, if I can't make payroll and I have to lay off employees, the company might go under, or I'm not going to be able to pay for my child's wedding, or I'm not going to be able to make those college payments, or my family is going to be disappointed in me, or my team's going to be disappointed in me. Now we're talking about an emotional level. I need social media marketing so the world is not disappointed in me. I know that sounds crazy when I see it like that, but that's how I'm being a little extreme, but that's the general process for how people process wants and needs information. So understanding how people are really, what they really feel they need at an emotional level is critical to how you go to market to them. Vicki had a great example before. If someone's coming to her and they're saying, hey, we can help you grow your business, she's going to be like, that's not really my message. It's not my business, right? But if they say, hey, we're going to help you personally, Vicki, increase the number of sales meetings you're having, she might go over to, because that's part of her KPIs and her motivators, and to make her life better, right? Financially and emotionally. She might come to me and say, hey, I really want to try this new program. So same thing. Message to me is increase revenue. I care about that. Not that you don't care, Vicki. Message to her is increase the number of sales meetings. But who that it's said to matters. So understanding motivators of your audience matters. And I'm going to talk more about the audience matrix in a little bit, but you can access a template to start filling out this information here. And there is going to be, I'm going to explain what an audience matrix is in another step. I'll let you jump on for Vicki.
Excellent. One of the things that we always talk about is is really keeping an eye on your competition and separating yourself. And one of the things that you want to really understand is, what are they saying, and what are they saying well, and how can you say that better, and what are they doing well, and what can you do better? And it's really about distinguishing yourself and really understanding your differentiating concepts, and understanding your unique value propositions, and how are you stacking up next to the people that you lose business to, or if you're constantly losing business to the same place, what are they doing? What are they doing that's so different? And how do you not only do it better, you have to be able to deliver on that promise, but how do you articulate it in a way that's meaningful and impactful? And it's important to look at their whole ecosystem, right? So marketing is an ecosystem, websites at center of the ecosystem. So looking at what's going on their social, what's going on their website, What kind of content are they producing? What are they putting out to the world? What's making them respond to them and maybe not to us in that certain way? And how do I make that happen? So that really is how you have to, if you're not paying attention to your competition, they are coming for you. I guarantee it. And you'll lose out on market share if you're not paying attention to that.
One of the ways that we do this is we do what's called a competitive analysis. So we go through, see where it says on the right, how to look for it. We go through their website, their social media, their email, any sort of marketing they're doing. If we can get our hands on their proposal, we even call and do, getting shadow information. And documenting what they say. How are they positioning themselves? What's their brand? What are they saying they do well? What is their website saying they do well? Do they have any cool features on their website? Are they doing any cool campaigns on social media? We document all that information. And I mean, honestly, we get if we look at a lot of competitors, we'll get hundreds of pages of data. And then we literally go through with a highlighter and we're like, this looks really cool. This looks really cool. This seems to resonate with the audience. Oh, I beat them here. Oh, well, we do this better than them. And making sure that you're out, them like the back of your hand, because these are the people you're going to market against. So making sure you understand how they're going to market and what they're saying versus how you're going to market and what you're saying, so you can separate yourself, but also emulate what they're doing well. Because just because they're doing it doesn't mean you shouldn't. It means something that their customers want. And so you should do those things, but you also have to find that extra thing that you do a little bit differently.
And just this morning, Rachel, I was talking to someone and they said, there's 1,000 marketing companies. What makes you different? And it really, I was able to really articulate to them that we are a strategy first agency. We look at strategy and we reverse engineer the path. And I talked about how, because this person had mentioned that, their marketing company in the past wasn't very responsive. And it was easy for me to share that that's something that we take a lot of pride in. That's our team is getting back to them within 24 hours. And that, so really articulating those things that separate us from everyone else was a way to really differentiate. There are a million marketing companies out there. Each one of us has a different approach, a different process, but it's those little intangibles that really add up to a cumulative impact that does create our unique value and our place in that makes us unique and special. I think
that's a great segue to the next step. So step 3 is learn what your customers want. What we generally recommend is doing what I call voice of the customer. I shouldn't say I call it, lots of people call this voice of the customer interview. So you do about a 20 to 30 minute interview and you want to ask questions to your audience in a very casual way. What are their buying motivators? Why did they pick you over the competition? Or why did they pick the competition over you? Maybe they're not your audience. Maybe they're your audience, but they're not your customer. You want to be listening for how are they using, what is their vocabulary? Are they using different vernacular than you might be? Do they have different, what is their need versus what they think their need is? Remember that different levels of the buying process. And what are their triggers and motivators for buying? These interviews are game changers because it helps you understand what the audience needs and wants and what perceptions are. And that is how you should be positioning yourself, period, end of story. If it's not coming out of the interviews, don't say it. Because whenever we assume we know what they want, we're mistaken. Now, you can do these interviews with, what I say often to my clients is, give me your top 10 favorite customers that you want more of. Those are the people I want to interview. You can also interview people who have left that were your favorite customers. We get a lot from exit interviews from clients, clients leaving because they got sold or for some reason or another. We want to do an exit interview. What could we have done different? Why did you pick us? What was the pleasant experience? Where can we improve? We always want to know those things, right? Ask the hard questions because you're going to get honest answers. The other thing I would recommend is get somebody besides you to do these interviews. If you've got a mastermind group or another business owner you trust, swap, because people will lie to your face. They do it to be nice. Nobody wants to say something that, and also your bias, right? You're going to hear what you want to hear, or you're going to use language that you want to use, and it's going to be different for them. So it always helps if you have somebody that they don't know interviewing them. And also if it's anonymous, you get more information. So make sure you're doing at least every year these interviews. We rerun these every year or so with our best clients, because we want to understand the world is changing, the economy is changing. What do they need? This makes a big deal. You used to be looking at your messaging strategy with voice of the customer interviews at least every year, if not every 6 months. Number 4, building that audience matrix. So that was that thing I mentioned earlier. We'll talk more about that. But essentially, an audience matrix now takes all the information that you learned from the voice of the customer interviews and your initial analysis of your target audience, and it organizes the information. Because when I say when you're doing this research, we probably get hundreds of pages of data between the competitive analysis, the voice of the customer interview notes, the original target audience worksheet or outline. The question is, how do we form this in a way that it's consumable quickly, right? So that we can comprehend what we're trying to accomplish, which is more clear messaging. So what we do is we take all the information together and we look for key commonalities. I did 10 voice of the customer interviews. What is the commonality of key characteristics I'm hearing? What is the commonality of desires by target audience? What is the commonality of their challenges and their wants and needs? You want to divide your audience into specific categories by psychographics. So for example, as Vicki mentioned earlier, Paradigm has a workflow solution, right? So we help our clients implement and enhance their CRM system. So Salesforce, Zoho, we help you automate those processes, get more meaningful data, make the information or the marketing and sales process more efficient. This is an exercise that we did. We brought the workflow division onto Paradigm back in 2021. So it was a newer division for us. And we wanted to do an audit of how we were going to go to market with this. So you'll notice at the top, it says reasons for a CRM, which is our workflow implementation process for CEOs, presidents, and COOs. Now, the reason I combined CEOs, presidents, and COOs is because what we found in our research was that generally these 3 audiences had similar psychographic motivators for this particular service. I have a different sheet that looks just like this for director of sales, another one for director of HR, another one for director of marketing. So there's 4 sheets for this because I segmented the audience by psychographics. You have to repeat this sheet for every audience motive that has a different motivator. For this one, what we wanted to do is we wanted to pull all of our data together and organize why psychographically does the CEO, the president, and the COO care about a CRM system. And if you can organize the information by things that are going to help you make a smart decision in your messaging strategy. So we organized it by pain, business impact, buying triggers, and barriers. Now, pain and business impact might seem similar to you, but it's not. Pain is about the emotional pain to the person. As the example I told you before about with Vicki, if somebody emailed her and say, hey, I want to grow business revenue, it wouldn't have resonated with her, right? That's the business impact. The pain is if you can start the sentence with, I'm frustrated because our team is inefficient. I stay up at night because I'm not sure if my numbers are right. I get stressed out because I'm afraid that our profit is lacking, but I can't get good information on it or how we're going to get there. If you can put an emotional word in front of any of those statements, then it becomes a personal pain for the individual. The business impact is more statistical. How is the program that you have or the solution you have going to impact the business in a meaningful way? When you're sitting at the board meeting, when your influencer or your champion, the person who feels the personal pain, is bringing this to the board or to whoever else they need to bring it to, what is the business impact or the case that they're going to make for why this solution works? You've got to separate those 2 out because they're important. They need to be set at the different stages of the buying process. The circumstances that trigger buying behaviors are really important. This is things that we're uncovering in our customer interviews. What is happening in the business at the time or to the person personally that is making them think they need this service? And then implementing barriers. Why might they not want to do this? Or not just them, but what's their boss going to say? So Vicki comes to me and says, hey, Rachel, I found out this service can get me more sales meetings. I'm going to say, are they quality? How expensive is it? Is it going to be a return on investment? I'm going to ask hard questions, right? And she's going to give me all the answers because she knows I'm going to ask them. But what are the resistance that you're going to get as a result? And that can be uncovered in the voice of the customer interviews also. So this tool is really important, and I'll put it. I mentioned it earlier in the presentation. I'll also put it in the chat at the end of this. But in helping you organize all of your information. Okay. And then
one of those things that sound simple.
it's what it's saying. It's easy, not simple, or simple.
Yeah,
or simple, not easy. One of the two, like that.
Some soul searching.
Some soul searching. Number 5 is synthesizing and organizing content. So now we've got our audience matrix that helped us do some of this, but we want to pull together our proof points. So there's the concept of offense versus defense. So I would think of it as a soccer game. I don't know why, but this is how I think of it. If you're playing soccer, you need both offense and defense to win, right? So your defense is going to prevent people from scoring a goal on you. These are your value propositions. These are the things we talked about earlier when we were talking about looking at your competition that we know your audience cares about and they want you to talk about. They want to see that you do this, but it's not going to win you the game. It's going to prevent you from losing the game. You've got to talk about it, but your offense is your differentiating concept. That is what's going to differentiate you against the audience. Defense is still important. Those value propositions are still important. And the reason for that, I'll give you an example. Years ago, I had a client, the financial advisor. I'm using financial advisors a lot. Who are financial advisors? Who we started doing a messaging strategy for. And they said, well, I want to say that I don't want to say that I do this thing that the audience finds valuable because my competitors think they do it, but they don't really do a good job of it. And I'm annoyed. Okay, but just because you're annoyed doesn't mean you shouldn't say it. Your audience cares about it. So you've got to, even though the competition is saying it, you've got to also say it or they're not even going to come to you. So making sure that you have everything your audience values plus that little extra positioning that you know is valuable is really important. So at this stage in synthesizing the content, what I start doing is I start looking at the audience matrix and all of the different information, and I start trying to bucket it. You're going to start seeing common statements in your notes from your messaging, from your voice of the customer interviews that you can then put a title over. Now, like these titles we came up with later, but what I start doing is bucketing the information. So this is paradigms that we did. We redid our messaging I think this was a year ago. And what I didn't have strategy first or data driven or our team or end-to-end expertise there yet. I just started pulling together the things that I wrote down that our audience that they found valuable into common themes. That's step 1. Once you pull them into common themes, you're going to start thinking, okay, I get it. Strategy first makes sense. All of these people are showing us that they value different strategy, different ways that we exemplify strategy, or different ways we exemplify data, leveraging data to make decisions. So step 5 is organizing all that information into meaningful buckets. Do not wordsmith yet. You don't have to pull it together, but you want to get it into different commonalities so that you can start wordsmithing, which takes me to step 6.
Which is where my favorite part is, which is the wordsmithing. This is pulling it all together. It's having an overview that clearly outlines your differentiating concepts. And the important thing here is making sure that you have multiple value propositions. At least 3 to 5 give you like some depth in your organization. And sometimes it's, everyone has value propositions. You just have to dig deeper sometimes to get them, depending on the business or the service that you provide. So what is the key takeaway here is making sure with do's and don'ts, make sure you keep it crisp. I love flowery language. I love big words, but this is not the place to put them. Get right to the point. Language that is clear, to the point, direct is well received. It makes it, it just leaves less to the imagination and gets right to the point. Avoid jargon and acronyms, because what CRM means in one industry, I guess I'm saying something bad, but a customer relationship management or a CRM could be something in a different industry. So it really is very important to make sure at least you articulate yourself well at least once in there before you start using acronyms. And make sure that it flows easily. Make sure that you practice it. Make sure that you are articulating it in a way that when you write it, reread it to yourself so that it sounds fluid and contextual and makes sense. And make sure that you save that overview for last. The overview is really kind of like the brain dump, if you will. It's all the information. And really what we're doing is pushing this down a funnel, if you will, to synthesize and really get the most crystallized messaging for.
Let me just jump on that. So if you go ahead to the top where it says format, you're basically articulating your overview is supposed to be your 2-minute elevator pitch, right? I'm sure you've all heard that before. What can I say in a couple sentences of what we do that touches upon all of our value propositions, who we serve, our differentiating concept? I always write that last. And the reason I write that last is because first, writing the value propositions and the differentiating concept is the hardest part. That's what I was organizing, right? Up here, these are the value propositions we're organizing. If you can nail those, writing the overview becomes easier at the end. So you want to do those first. Sorry, Vicki.
No, that's okay, because I was thinking of the overview as something completely, as I look at that, I put all my information down and then I synthesize it out. So I was just switching the language. So, and then furthermore, you have your do's, then you have your don'ts. Don't combine proof points. You confuse your end user. Don't have similar value propositions. Sometimes those, when you're looking that your value proposition seems similar, either combine them into one or nix one, because if they're too similar, you start to blur the conversation and you muddy the waters. And then have value propositions that serve, don't have value propositions that serve different audiences. It's really important to have an overview of that says this is what we do, a high level message. And then on your website, for example, or when you're sending targeted emails, then have the language that is specific to that particular audience so that it will resonate with them. Again, 70% of messaging fails because it's going to the wrong audience. So make sure that high level message means something to everyone. And then that more targeted message will go to your direct audiences.
Vicki, time check. You've got about like a minute for each of these next slides.
Okay, so I am the verbose one, so I think it's pretty funny that you asked me to do this in the do's and don'ts. So
don't do anything Vicki does.
Use an active voice versus a passive voice. Next steps will be discussed versus the account team will discuss. Be definitive, be decisive. If you have time next week, skip that BS and go right to, please review. This is what I'm asking you to do. Get right to the point. Don't leave it up for somebody else's interpretation. Make it clear and to the point. Remove extra words. This is where I struggle because I like my fancy words. Our program can help you in supporting versus our program will. It is more decisive. It is more powerful. It is more impactful instead of using flowery language. And to the point of avoiding jargon, our team utilizes them. I think I wrote this. A multitude of best-in-class practices to actualize. What the hell does that even mean? So be clear to all of your audiences. Our team uses several proven methods to deliver measurable results. Again, you're getting rid of anything that you can contemplate as meaning something else, and you're saying this is what we do with certainty and clarity.
So to give you guys an example, so earlier I showed you strategy first. I don't know, can you see this, Vicki, or you're
yes,
lost in the
I can
way?
see it.
Okay. So I see everybody's head. So these were the notes on the left side. These were the notes of where we talked about our strategy first value proposition. And then the question becomes, how do we then move it over to our concise language that is articulating the point in a way that's going to resonate with them? You always want to articulate the what and how and the outcome when you're doing that. So if you'll notice here, everything in yellow is highlighted as the what and how, and everything in blue is the outcome that they're going to get. The what and how is mostly from the notes. And the outcome is the result that they're saying from the voice of the customer interview. It's the result that they were saying they wanted. It's why they came to us in the first place. And then the what and how is the rest of the information that came from the voice in the customer interview. So make sure that when you're in every value proposition, you're doing the what and the how, and the outcome is articulated as concisely and clearly as possible. Now on this slide, this paragraph, just so you guys know, looks really big, but it's only about 2 or 3 sentences. So if I were actually looking at this piece of paper, it would be much more concise and easier to comprehend. Now, once you've written every one of your value propositions in a way that is short, concise, and resonating that you're happy with, you're going to then take a step back and write the overview statement. Now, there's going to be a lot of colors, guys. So I apologize in advance, but bear with me a second.
That is a lot of colors. It is a
lot of colors. Your overview statement is going to be, like I said, your elevator pitch. This should become your messaging Bible. Everything you say in your social media platforms, on your website, in your emails that your sales team is saying should tie back to this message or one of your value propositions. If it doesn't reinforce one of these statements, do not say it in your marketing, period, end of story. Because if you say it something that doesn't reinforce your messaging, you are breaking that touch process and you're messing up the messaging strategy and the sales process. So this messaging statement is really important, this overview statement, because it pulls everything together. So now I've got my in Paradigm's case, 4 value propositions. And so now I'm pulling together the what, the how, and the who, the outcomes, and every one of the value propositions. So let me say that again. You want all of the value propositions in your overview statement, the what, the how, and the who you help, and the outcomes you provide. So if you see Paradigm, so looking at how we did this, doesn't have to be in a particular order, but it has to be sequential. So Paradigm Marketing and Design is a full-service marketing agency that helps businesses, nonprofit organizations with the complex sales process. That's the what, the how, and the who. We achieve growth goals. I can't see what I wrote here. We achieve growth goals and remain competitive in an evolving business landscape. That's the outcome. Offering a full suite of marketing services, including strategic marketing, branding, web development, design, and CRM implementation, the what, the how, and the who. We blend creativity, technology, and strategy with data-backed insights and superior execution. That's our end-to-end expertise value proposition. To build marketing to sales processes with proven, purpose-driven results, again, the what, the how, and the who, that shorten the sales cycle, increase the number of high-quality meetings the sales team is having, and positively impacting profitability. That's the outcome again. With a data-driven approach that informs our decisions, that's our data-driven value proposition. We build programs that work and measure results while adjusting accordingly to ensure optimal results, increase brand awareness, and a strong ROI. And then the last paragraph, we're covering our team value proposition and our strategy first value proposition. So we're leveraging all of the value propositions as the proof point for how we achieve the outcome for the what, the how, and the who. So that is how you pull together your messaging strategy. I know there's a lot to it and there's a lot of data that goes behind it. But again, this becomes the foundation of everything. If you can nail this, you're set for the next year at least, if not 2 years, because everything you do and when you go to market boils back down to this statement. And because it was done with research, both of the customer interviews, your competitive analysis, you know that it's right? Knowing that you have the right messaging is really important. So don't guess at it, because that's when you make the greatest amount of mistakes. So with that, we're in good timing. I am going to move on to Q&A for everybody. Now, if you guys are totally overwhelmed and exhausted and you're crying a little bit, that's okay. I do that to a lot of people. You are welcome to contact one of us for a strategy session. We'll be happy to talk you through your messaging at no charge. You can use this QR code to schedule that, or you can just shoot Anna, my assistant, an email, and she can certainly schedule that for you. And then this presentation will go out afterwards, and you guys will have all of the resources that we talked about. So with that, I am going to stop sharing, and I will open it up. Oh gosh, where are you all? To Q&A. Okay, hold on one second. Oh gosh, my email stopped. Here we go. All right.
So I don't see any questions in the chat. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have a couple questions from registration. So the first one is, during business slowdown, what is the most effective way to generate leads? So,
Rachel, your mic keeps going in and out. I'm not sure what's going on. I can hear you right now, but it keeps kind of fading.
So during a business slowdown, what's the most beneficial way to generate leads? So there's 2 things. One, make sure when you're going to market, with data behind you. So you want to make decisions in a way that is going to ensure that what you're doing is impactful. So testing your message before you go to market, really important. Number 2, partnership marketing is a really good strategy. So doing like a webinar, or, for example, with somebody who shares your target audience and splitting resources is a great way to continue your marketing push, but cutting your cost. And if you're sharing audiences, Studies show that people who market through a recession are companies that increase advertising through a recession have a 275% growth over the next 5 years, compared to companies that don't only have about a 19% growth. So if you can find a way to find other businesses that share your audience and market with them, that's a really impactful way to keep going to market, but by cutting costs.
One thing that's also really important to bring up is really reevaluating your target audience right now. Times are changing. It depends on where you are on the recession bandwagon. Some people say we're in one. Some people say we've been in one. Some people say they're not seeing any impact. One thing that's really important is that you should at least quarterly be looking at your audience and see if things have changed for them. What mattered to your client 3-4 months ago may not matter to them today. We're living in very unusual times, and we have certainly learned that, messaging is not a set it and forget it situation. Definitely get, when you're doing team building and exercises with your team about how you're going to market, I think it's absolutely critical. Look at your audience, have their needs changed? Ask yourself those hard questions, and then do your messaging accordingly, because again, needs change all the time. The pandemic definitely taught us that.
Somebody else gave me a question on nonprofit messaging. So nonprofit messaging is really very different than this type of messaging strategy. When you're working on nonprofits, it's just worth saying, and it's actually a lot of some businesses have this challenge too. You have a lot of different target audiences in a nonprofit. You have the clients you serve who have a very different need than the grant writer, than the people who are you're getting a grant from. They're different from your major gift donors. They're different from the event attendees that are coming to your event. They're different from your corporate sponsors. So when you're going with a nonprofit, and I came out of nonprofits, we always struggled with this. Are we donor focused or are we client focused on our website? I have a tried and true rule, and I do have a webinar on messaging for nonprofits that if you guys want to email me afterwards, I'll be happy to send to you. But if you can articulate your impact, this works 98% of the time. There's always an exception. But if you can articulate your impact in 3 ways, which is the impact to the individual, that's Sarah McLachlan singing about puppies, the impact to the community, if for every child that gets a quality preschool education, the community has X amount less crime. I think that statistic up. I'm just giving you an example. And the impact to the economy, or on a global scale, like global warming. For every child that gets a quality preschool education, your tax dollars come down by $1 million. We save $1 million in tax dollars, a year. If you can articulate your impact in those 3 categories, you are likely speaking to every single target audience, including your clients. So the messaging strategy for nonprofits a little bit different and doesn't apply here as much. Another question we have is it wise to use concrete and specific examples of your work, including outcomes, in places other than your portfolio section of your website? Meaning, does presenting concrete examples up front help back up the brand promise? Yes. But the same rules apply. Are they concise? Are they compelling? And are we sure that they are articulating the value proposition in a meaningful way? And if we are doing those 3 things, then yes. What I say, though, is you don't have to make it complicated. So we, for example, have case studies on our website or a portfolio. You can code your website, this is a whole different presentation, in a way that, and I've done this quite a bit for different audiences that have clients that have lots of different target audiences or different services. You can code your website so that different service pages pull in different case studies or value propositions based on how they're categorized. So when somebody gets to the service page or the landing page, visually, the impact of the case study is displayed right there. So you don't have to negate the portfolio. You can actually pull it into the website so it looks like a piece of the service. I think how are we doing on time? We have 3 minutes.
I think that's a really important part that you also bring up, Rachel, is like, nobody goes to the testimonial page to see how awesome people think you are. Yeah. And when it's really placed strategically on a service page, that's where the impact is. Like where I said, oh, I see that your marketing services help me raise like help me increase, help the law firm increase their ROI by 257% by running these campaigns. It's in the right place. So that's where the strategic thinking comes in, placement, and making sure that you're underscoring a message in a meaningful way instead of just having a list of testimonials that people will say, oh, you're just picking the best and the brightest to put on your website. No, we're putting it here to prove a point, to underscore the value that we're bringing.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Vicki. And then last question, and then we're wrapped up on time. As you help firms with rebranding, how long do you test your messaging before deciding if it isn't working? So you definitely don't want to pull together the entire messaging and branding strategy and then test it because you've done a lot of work and now you're not quite sure. I always say that the more work we can do up front, the more you're going to save money in the long run. So focus groups are a great way to check your messaging. What we might do is do voice of the customer interviews, pull the messaging together, and then we can do A/B testing on social advertising to see what's compelling. We can do focus groups, we can do mini groups, or run our messaging by different audiences. But I would say that you want to do enough testing that you get consistent answers that are very clear. So what I mean by that is we just did some voice of the customer interviews for a client, and 3 people said one thing and 3 people said something else that directly conflicted. That's a problem. If I do 10 interviews and everyone's saying almost the same thing, I feel good about the research. If I'm seeing conflicting responses, then we've got to do more research. So it's not really about how long exactly, it's about what the results are that you're getting and how consistent they are.
Also doing third-party interviews is really key. That's where you get your most honest answers. I know we're running out of time, but that's an important key too.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, thank you all for coming. We will see you next month at the roundtable in November. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email. Thank you.
Thank you.